At a time when homicides in the city is on the upswing, the number of police officers on Detroit streets is as low as it was back in the 1920s. So tonight, is anything being done to beef up the police force? 7 investigator Ross Jones live in our newsroom tonight with some sobering numbers for us. Ross?
Stephen, good evening. Over one weekend last month in Detroit, 27 people were shot and 3 were killed. The streets are becoming harder and harder to protect, and today there aren't enough cops to do it.
You have to be like damn near on your deathbed for them to come out.
When Rashawn Jackson needs help from Detroit police, she knows she'll likely have to wait. Just last week, she called 911 after a domestic dispute with her boyfriend. It took hours just for cops to show up.
And I do carry weapons, you know, so I can protect myself. I'm a woman, and that's the only way I feel that it's just going to be sorry for you to protect your own self, because the police ain't doing nothing.
It's not news that the city doesn't have nearly enough police officers, but today came figures that show just how dire the staffing level really is. For a city of about 700,000 residents, there are less than 1,600 cops, numbers that haven't been seen since the 1920s. It's a far cry from when Mark Diaz started on the job back in the 90s, when the force was about 4,000 strong.
Our numbers have dwindled to a point where we can't go any lower. We have to start hiring. We have to start hiring en masse, and we need to start bringing officers from other police departments here to the city of Detroit.
Today, Diaz is the president of the Detroit Police Officers Association. He says the reasons for the cop shortage aren't a secret either. Pay is embarrassingly low, starting at only $14 an hour. Cops who might start out at DPD often leave for jobs in the suburbs, where the pay is better and the job is safer.
When you take into consideration what our officers are dealing with, absolutely, we're grossly underpaid.
Under Police Chief James Craig, DPD has made some strides in bringing down violent crime in the city, but response time to life-threatening calls is still too high, averaging north of 18 minutes. Bringing that number down, Diaz says, is one of Mayor Mike Duggan's biggest priorities, and it starts with hiring more cops.
And he is exploring every possibility to correct this as he is related to me.
Now, I just got off the phone with Chief James Craig, who said his department is much more efficient than it was even just a year ago. He says that since last year, more than 200 officers are on the street, thanks to new hires and the redeployment of officers who would otherwise have desk jobs. He plans to put another 400 officers back on the streets by the end of 2016, and that 18-minute response time for priority 911 calls, he points out that is much better than it was 2 years ago at more than 38 minutes. We're going to try to catch up with the chief later on this evening, bring you more of his comments tonight on 7 Action News at 11. Stephen?
All right, Ross, thank you for that. Speaking of